Hey folks, Crazyclimber80 here again, and we're going to look at part 4 in our Crazyclimber80's arcade attract mode Invincibility Follies. We're going to look at a whole new slew of games here, and we are going to start with the game called Sky Kid. And if you put the invincibility cheat on this one, you do not drop the bomb when enemies touch you. You'll pick up the bomb eventually. After you do so, the enemies will not make you drop it when they collide with you, which is what normally happens, or if they shoot you. But eventually, after dropping the bomb on the battleship, the computer will go into the water, where you should crash and die, but you won't. And then you'll go to the high score list. And he'll go into the water in just a little bit. And the enemies die by running into you. I never saw this in arcades back in the day. I definitely played it for the NES, and it seemed like it was a pretty good port. And next we're going to look at Space Harrier. When you die on the first attract mode, you will die even with invincibility. But on the second attract mode, you will beat stage 2. And you will see the boss of stage 2, and you will eventually beat it. But then you will go to stage 3 and get to the boss, but the computer won't try to beat it. See, it's flying around and shooting and stuff. But eventually they will not be so busy. They will just kind of sit there against this boss in the bottom right corner and maybe wiggle a little bit and maybe shoot a little bit, but that's it. So it will not beat this boss. That's what it does in the attract mode with invincibility on. I loved Space Harrier. That's a great classic. But next we will look at Super Punch-Out. And in this, if you have easy knockdowns or KOs, you will take down Bear Hugger with one punch and then go to the title screen. If you have infinite energy cheat, the computer will eventually knock him down with the same result, going to the title screen once he gets knocked down. It'll take quite a while for the computer to beat him. But for the most part, when he hits Bear Hugger and then gets hit by Bear Hugger, there won't be much of a energy regained for Bear Hugger. He'll take some hits for sure. You can't body blow Bear Hugger in the arcade game of Super Punch-Out. There, he knocks him down finally. Now we're going to look at Terra Cresta. If you have invincibility on, the game will freeze, or the attract mode will freeze once you collect a ship part. This is part of the Moon Cresta series. See, the game freezes. After a little while, it might move a little teeny bit, but that is all. So the game is basically frozen, and it'll stay frozen. That's what happens when you have invincibility on. And next we're going to look at Tiger Heli, created by Toaplan and Taito in 1985. It had a very good NES port. With invincibility, the computer will fly through the stages, eventually with little shooting or movement. I saw this in the arcade just like once was all. It was a nickel arcade called Wonderland in Beaverton, Oregon. That's been taken out in recent years. But yeah, I only saw this one once, but the NES port was very, very good. See, they just keep shooting through me. Eventually, you'll reach the end of a stage, and you'll land, and it'll give you the bonuses for if you have required little helis, which are like option fighters, or if you have any bombs, you'd get bonuses for that. But then you take off and you just keep flying through the game, through the whole game that way, continuing on with Invincibility. And we are going to look at a Konami classic that I don't know if it got released in the US, but it is called Twin Bee. And this was part of a long series. If you have Invincibility for Player 1 and Player 2, the computer only sometimes stays still and won't shoot. Otherwise, they're pretty active, moving about and shooting. And you collect these little bells for power-ups. There was even an anime, short-lived anime of Twin Bee. Kind of funny. I saw a little bit of it. It was only in Japanese. But at any rate, next up, we're going to look at Athena, and this is a crappy arcade game. If you have Invincibility on, Athena will wander around and collect meager little power-ups. She'll eventually stop at a wall and run out of time and die, and then it goes to the title screen. If you have an infinite time, then she just won't go anywhere. It'll be even duller than the game itself. As crappy as this arcade game was, the NES port was worse. But the character of Athena would appear in other SNK games, including the King of Fighters series, or it would be a descendant of Athena. Athena being a goddess. Yeah, eventually characters will appear that if you took too long in a certain area, then they'd try to force you to hurry up. And there she ran out of time. And now we're going to look at Breakthrough. This is kind of a fun game, kind of hard. You have a jeep, a military jeep that can jump, or some sort of a military vehicle that can jump over walls. And with Invincibility on, it will eventually go through walls. And eventually, after a while, it will not change direction. It'll just go forward, and that's it. It won't shoot or anything. And once it gets to that point, it can go through all the levels in the game, and it will complete the game and start back over at the beginning. See, it's writing on the cliff wall there. Pretty weird. This had a decent NES port, from what I remember. This game was alright. I remember seeing it at a 7-Eleven back in the day. Maybe not quite a Data East classic per se, but not too bad. Yeah, it's this part you're not supposed to be like on those columns there. But yeah, eventually you will pass a level in the attract mode with Invincibility on, or the computer will, and then you'll go to the next stage, and you'll just keep going through the whole game that way. And like I said, the computer will not jump, it will not shoot, it will not change direction, it will not change speed. It can run through enemies because it has Invincibility on. And when you come across sections of a broken bridge on this stage, you'll just drive over the water. Doop-de-doo. Be kind of nice to have a vehicle that did that. and then you'll get to the final area and beat the game, and you'll get this this little scenario play out here, and then you'll be able to do a stage select. You can start on whatever stage you want now, even in the attract mode, and you get to select that, not the computer. So yeah, select whichever one you want to start at, and you'll still have the invincibility on. And next we're going to look at Championship Sprint, or also known as Super Sprint. You'll have you get to choose whichever car you want to have fast, and it'll clearly outpace all the others. Just comfortable lead, and then beat that course. And then I think it goes to the title screen. Now let's look at Express Raider, also known as Western Express. If you have infinite health on, you can still die from a train car that gets bombed, and you'll fall out on the ground and die. And the second attract mode will have you on horseback doing the alternate stage. And on that one, you will die when you get shot by the horse, even with infinite health. It's a one-hit kill. There's also an invincibility cheat. And the bomb will not set if you have the invincibility cheat. And there the guy is setting the bomb. With the, I have the infinite health cheat. I guess I'm too close for that guy with the bottles to hit me. And there I die. But yeah, here's the second attract mode. And yeah, with infinite health you will still die with one hit. And now here's the bomb not being set off because I have invincibility on, but I just go to the high score screen. And even with invincibility, you still die from getting shot on the horse. And this is Hopping Mappy. In this one, the screen goes screwy when Mappy tries to leave the screen if you have invincibility on. This probably got very, very little release in the US. I'd never seen it in America. I like Mappy a little bit better than this one. Although this one kind of grows on you after a while. But yeah, that cat should have killed me. And now the screen starts to go a little weird here. Mappy leaves the screen. Hopping around somewhere off the screen, I guess. And then the... What? It goes a little weird here. Definitely one of the more interesting attract mode invincibility follies. But it keeps going weird. Now let's look at Ikari Warriors. In this one, I put second player invincibility off. Eventually, the game will continue on with me having invincibility, player 1, I mean. But eventually it'll stop till player 1 is across from the a certain foot soldier or a group of foot soldiers. He'll just stop there and he won't move. He'll use all his grenades and bullets. It is the same situation with 2 players playing with both invincibility, but the second player won't use up all of his ammo. And now let's look at Iron Horse. And the computer won't really advance with invincibility on. They'll sometimes backtrack a bit to force the screen from scrolling further right. This is kind of like a Russian Attack meets the Old West, I guess. I'd never seen this one in arcades. Definitely saw Russian Attack, though. Yeah, this game is pretty hard from what I remember playing it in MAME. Yeah, see, the computer won't really advance at this point. everything. The screen scrolls to the right, but they'll kind of back up to keep it from scrolling further to the right. And now we're going to look at Joust 2. In this one, the pterodactyl will kill you in the first part of the attract mode, but in the second part, the game will freeze. The second part of the attract mode, the game will freeze. This was not a good sequel. In the second part, the game will freeze when the computer jabs a peg on this giant thing that you need to destroy. You need to take out all the pegs. I'd never seen this in arcades back in the day. It's not a very good sequel to Joust. See, I have Invincibility on for both players. And enemies will die when they run into us, but the pterodactyl will still kill us with Invincibility on. Has a number of the same sound effects from Joust 1. And here's where you jab the one peg, and then the game freezes. Oops. Well, now we're going to look at Kid Nicki, Radical Ninja. I like this game. I like the home port even better. See, it just goes right through the enemies. Eventually something weird happens. Kid Nicki will disappear, and then he'll die for no reason. And then the game will go to the high score list. What? Okay. Now we're going to look at Legendary Wings. In this one, the game will freeze when you have Invincibility on after getting sucked in. There will be a point where you get sucked into a giant head and you go to an underground area, but the game will freeze if you have Invincibility on in the attract mode. This is an okay game. I remembered this in the arcades. Kind of like the Greco-Roman motif. See, the game just freezes. I mean, the music still plays, but nothing happens. Now we're going to look at Lock On. This is kind of a cool flight simulator. If you have Invincibility on, you will run into missiles, and you stop for a second for each missile that you run into. Eventually, the game will just go to the title screen. But we'll look at that for a little bit. See, now it starts in earnest here, and yeah, the screen stops for a second when you run into the missile, and then you advance right afterwards. I think I saw this once in the arcades back in the day. This was created by a company called Tatsumi and licensed to Taito or Data East. I think Data East. At any rate, now this is Momoko 120% or something. Eventually, with Invincibility on, your character will fall to her death. She goes through enemies at some point or another. Kind of interesting little platform jumping game created by Jalico. It goes back to the high score list. And now we're going to look at the classic Outrun. There is a speed cheat. Whoa, holy crap. You will drive till the high score list appears, and then you will continue. You'll pick up where you left off. And there we go. still driving like a maniac, but now you're completely invincible and you'll go through everything. And the game will just continue to loop on through all the stage appearances, or the settings, or whatever. Classic game by Sega, one of their all-time best games. And now we're going to look at SNK's Psycho Soldier. If you have Invincibility on, you will have this weird dragon-like invincibility-looking power, but it's kind of warped looking. I like that they have music with dialogue, with spoken lyrics. Very, very, very unusual for an arcade game. Eventually, your character will fall to their death, fall in water here. But the game will just continue on like you didn't die. And eventually you'll get to a boss, but you can't beat it because you're not alive. Really, really, really weird. I'm not sure what they're supposed to be saying there. See, there's the boss, and nobody there to beat it. And now we are going to look at Quartet. Sort of a classic by Sega. It's like Gauntlet a little bit. But even with Invincibility on, the game will stop and go to the high score list after a while. You have to get a key from a certain enemy to be able to advance. Yeah, it's a lot like Gauntlet in ways. You have a long numerical life bar that will tick down bit by bit as enemies hit you, so you go to the high score list here. I only saw that once in arcades, I think. Now we're going to look at Renegade. In this one, you have infinite energy with one cheat, and you will fall off the ledge and die. Or maybe, no, no, I think you do die with infinite energy, but, or maybe it was, no, I think with infinite energy you do not die, but you keep getting up, and then after that the graphics get really, really funky. And all the guys are standing on the platform. That is just frickin' A weird. And then when the time runs out, you will go to the high score list. Like that. That was actually with infinite time, or that was either with infinite time, or this is with invincibility on, that you will die when you back up and go off the platform. See, he dies there. That's Renegade. And this time we're going to look at Rygar. And with invincibility on, you stop at a certain point, and then you will barely finish round one in time, or the computer will. On round two, he will fall to his death, and then you go to the high score screen. There is a invincibility and the invincibility cheat that we're seeing, and there is also a hit anywhere cheat, in which you can strike anywhere and hit any enemy or all enemies on the screen at once. And there's also an infinite time cheat that you could put on. See, the computer will kind of putz around a little bit towards the end of a stage, but when the time is almost up, they will start moving forward. Although they won't die when the time runs out. There will be some big enemy that hovers around you. You get all the points counted up for finishing a level, and then you just go on to the next level. He's hitting the weapon or firing the weapon too quick for it to be able to extend and hit enemies. But he will fall off a ledge and die, fall into lava. I liked the NES port much better than the arcade version of Rygar. It was a lot better, I thought. It was totally different. See, that is the hit anywhere cheat. Hit anywhere cheats are cool. That is the enemy that appears when you've taken too long, when your time runs out. And like I said, with invincibility or whatever cheat on, you won't die from running out of time. Found it weird that Rygar has to grab those things and rotate to get to the next stage. See, we've got hit anywhere cheat here. It's playable. It's not bad. I like all the different items and bonus things that you can pick up. But I liked the NES port better. It's totally different. And now we're going to look at Sidearms. Capcom classic. Great game. With invincibility on, eventually the second player will get pinched from the scrolling screen and die. Then the game will go to the high score list. So you'll get pinched right here. And now we're going to look at a game called Solar Warrior, also known as Zane Selena. And if you have invincibility on, you cannot complete the stage in time, or the computer will not. They will not jump over a ledge. And the computer will die when the time expires. Even if you put on infinite time cheat, they still will not advance. It's a very tough game. I did not see this in arcades. I played this for one of my video reviews. Very, very tough. But the computer will eventually get to this point and not advance with invincibility cheat on in the attract mode. And if you let the time run out, you die. And you go to the title screen. But if you have infinite time and you run out of your time, they still won't jump up onto that ledge. Can't remember, I think maybe you have to push up and jump to jump really high. It's been a while since I played this. But now we're going to look at the Speed Rumbler by Capcom, and in this one, the attract mode will go to the high score list after a while of driving around with invincibility. And there is a high speed code that you can put on. It'll give you the same result. After a while of driving, you'll go to the high score list. Or the title screen, one of the two. And then here's the speed cheat. You get a little bit further this time. I think I saw this once at a bowling alley. Oh, the title screen, not the high score list. And this is Toy Pop. This is a cool, cute little game. If you have invincibility for both players, they will both exit the stage. If you have a player that doesn't have invincibility, they will eventually die, and then the other player will be able to beat the stage, and they do. I think this was Japan only. I played this on one of the Namco Classics, or Namco Museum collections. Fun little game. I enjoy it. Very cute graphics, cute characters, but it's still definitely fun, definitely playable. And there, the second player died, but you still complete this stage and go to the title screen. Now we're going to look at Trojan. In this one, the graphics will eventually go wonky if you have invincibility on, and you can't see very well what's going on. Eventually, even with the screwy graphics, you will beat the first boss, but you don't die from running out of time. See, these guys are trying to hit Trojan, who might or might not be wearing Trojan condoms. I don't know. But I have invincibility on, so they're not hurting me. This had a very, very good NES port. I remember that. I played it a lot, and the final boss was very difficult unless you set up the... if you had the NES Max joystick controller, or maybe it's called the Advantage. Yeah, weird. If you had the, I think it was the Advantage, then you could set the slow-mo just right to be able to much easier beat the final boss, who is named Achilles, I believe. Pretty good game. Very, very hard. But yeah, eventually you will run out of time with these screwed graphics, but it won't kill you. You'll just sit there and jump around and shit. Now we're going to look at Wonder Boy. Eventually, even with invincibility, you will fall off a cliff and die, and then go to the title screen. There was an NES sort of version of this called Hudson's Adventure Island. It was very, very clearly a copy of this. I think I saw this once at like a movie theater lobby. I never played it back in the day. Definitely influenced by Super Mario Brothers. I like seeing a caveman with a skateboard. Interesting. I hope you're enjoying your weekend. Hope you've been enjoying preseason football, if that's your thing. Yeah, see, he dies there. Now we're going to look at some versus games. Super Mario Brothers. We put on Moon Jump here. There's a cool Moon Jump code where he jumps super high, but eventually he'll die from the Goombas. But there is also, if you put on Invincibility and Moon Jump, so you don't get the mushroom there if you have Moon Jump, you will not die from the Goombas. You will kill these two, and then you'll wait until the title screen appear, or the high score list appears there. Now we're going to look at versus Gradius. With Invincibility on, eventually you will go back to the title screen near the split volcano. And the split volcano is where you can go between it and get a 5,000 point bonus. The original Gradius, also known as Nemesis, had a much different look to it, and it was created the year prior. This was the version of Gradius that I usually saw in the arcades. And this is just like the NES version, which is a very, 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 very good port of Gradius. But there is also a hit anywhere code. See, you go back to the title screen. There is a hit anywhere code, and that's what I'm doing. Whenever you shoot, whatever enemy is on the screen will die. And since the computer keeps shooting, they'll keep killing enemies before they can shoot them. Eventually you will get to that split volcano, and you will go back to the title screen, but you will get that 5,000 point bonus, because there is also an all secrets open cheat that I have on. So you'll get whatever 1-ups or bonus points that are obtained from going into certain areas. So I will get the 5,000 point bonus and then go back to the title screen. Ta-da! And now we're going to look at versus Excite Bike. In this one, there is a cheat that makes it so that your temperature meter won't overheat. And eventually, in this little attract mode sequence here, it's supposed to happen. And the temperature meter doesn't overheat, but you still pull over anyway. And you'll go to the title screen. Now we're going to look at versus Castlevania. With Invincibility on level 4 here, you won't pass this first dragon, this Skeledragon. There are 3 different stage areas that you'll see in the attract mode. He just whips here and there, but then it'll go back to the title screen. And there's this part of the attract mode with Invincibility on. And then there's one more area on this same stage here that we will see in the attract mode. And then you will eventually get to an area where you just go to the far left wall, or the far right wall, and you will stop. And on that one, I did infinite health, and that's this one, I think. And you'll just keep bouncing around from enemies getting hit, but your health will not completely deplete. In fact, it won't deplete at all. But you'll do the whoop whenever you get hit, and bounce backwards, or the other way from where you're facing. And you'll go near that wall and go back to the title screen. And there is also a cool code, which is moon jump. You gotta jump really high when you're running, and we'll see that in one of the attract mode parts here, or when you're standing still, you get or running, you get to do the moon jump, and you'll get to get on top of the top of the ceiling here. Definitely not supposed to happen, but you'll eventually go to the title screen again. And now we're going to look at, this is Dr. Mario versus Dr. Mario. You can select the pills won't fall cheat. See, they're not falling. The computer has to make them fall. And this will eventually lead the computer to lose. And then the game will freeze, kind of. The attract mode will freeze at the game over screen. You'll still see graphics of the viruses moving about. But, and you'll hear music, but the game won't go to a high scores screen or title screen or anything. It'll be stuck here. And now we're going to look at some 1987 games. This is 1943. With either Invincibility or Infinite Life on, you can still lose energy, but you won't completely run out of it. After a while, the attract mode will stop and then go to the title screen. And we'll see that. Watch that happen here. This is the first sequel to 1942, and it's part of a long-running series in the 1942 games. Most of them dealing with World War II. I don't know all the games in the 1940 whatever series. I just know 1942, 1943, and 1941. And then I think there were ones that were similarly titled, but I don't remember how well they were related. This one I don't remember if I came across in the arcades or not. This is also known as 1943, the Battle of Midway. But like I said, eventually this will go to the title screen. Although we see the title right here. And now we're going to look at Afterburner. In this one, the plane was supposed to be shot during the attract mode, but it flies a bit longer, and then it'll cut to the high score list. Then go back to the title screen intro. This is Afterburner 2. Afterburner 1 didn't really have anything special for Invincibility attract mode, so I went with 2. But yeah, it was supposed to crash and burn before that point. And now we're going to look at Bionic Commando. In this one, you will get run through by a big enemy normally. But since he can't hurt me, I have Invincibility on. Shortly after that, it will go to the high score list. I remember my stepdad had an Amiga, Commodore Amiga, and he had this game on it, and I would play that. I saw this in the arcades. See, there it goes to the high score list. It's Bionic Commando. And next up, we're going to look at another Capcom game called Black Tiger. And this is kind of like Ghosts and Goblins. In this one, if you have Invincibility on, you will eventually jump onto this column, and you will keep getting shot with fireballs, and you will just be stuck there. You will not do anything. You'll see that in just a little bit here. This is one of those Capcom games where you can collect Zenny coins. Yeah, this is very much like Ghosts of Goblins. I might have seen this once at a movie theater. Might have. Here is where you get stuck. Jump out of that column and you just keep getting shot by fireballs and your guy doesn't go anywhere. And now we're going to look at Combat School, also known as Boot Camp. In this one,
you looking for a fight?
Use the code do infinite damage for both players, and you will breeze through the shooting range attract mode. And then there is also, with that same code, do the Iron Man race, and both players are jumping up and down. It's weird. What the hell? Really weird.
Congratulations on your graduation.
Congratulations on graduating jump school. Weird. And this time we're going to look at Continental Circus, I guess also known as Continental Circuit. Kind of a cool racing game. With Invincibility on, I think it was Invincibility on, you don't go into the pit. You're supposed to go into the pit in attract mode, and that won't happen here. The game will eventually stop after where the pit was and go to the Taito Presents screen. So you just bump a car backwards. You were supposed to go in the pit back there. Doesn't happen. And now we're going to look at the classic Contra. Now, even if you have Invincibility on for both players, and I like to add the shoot anywhere cheat here, at least one player will eventually die. There will be a cannon that you get shot by, and after that death, you will go to the high score list, and that's coming up. Fantastic NES port. This game was really, really hard in the arcades. I remember seeing this first at a bowling alley. But coming up, there will be a cannon that will shoot your players. And even with Invincibility on, at least one of you will die. And you go to the high score list. And now we will look at Double Dragon. If you have Invincibility on for either player, then the second player will attack the first player, and then you will go to the high score list. Really weird. This game was brutally easy. If you elbow jab the opponent over and over again. Let them sneak up behind you and fire an elbow jab. Turn your back to them, and the game is just easy as cake for the most part. There will be some tough parts on the final stage. See, there's that high score list. And now we're going to look at Dragon Spirit. Now in this one, with Invincibility on, the dragon will beat this boss coming up. And then it'll go to level 2. But then the dragon will just sit in the bottom right corner. The dragon screams when it gets hit. I think I saw this once in the arcade before. I think it had an NES port. It's okay, it's not my favorite. It's not bad though. Semi Namco classic. I think it had like a couple sequels or something. It's an okay game. I think I saw it once at a nickel arcade. But yeah, eventually it'll beat this boss here. But then after that, it'll start on the next area, and eventually it'll just go to the southwest corner and just sit there, not do anything. But it'll fly up to the boss of the next stage, but it won't beat it because it's just sitting there. And next we're going to look at Galaga 88. And in this one, if you have Invincibility on in the first attract mode, it tends to end when an item goes by you. And you can get an item from certain enemies that are shot. I saw this once at a nickel arcade, I think. I wasn't really big into arcades at that point. See, the item goes by you and then you go to the title screen. But with I put on a triple power plus Invincibility on this attract mode here. It ends when you complete the stage, and then it goes to the title screen. Certainly not a bad sequel. See, it goes to the title screen. Now we're going to look at Heavy Barrel. And this was... what a cool game. Only one player gets to have the super gun if you put on the super gun cheat. I think it's infinite super gun. But only one player gets to have it. At some point, the gameplay will stop once you get to 3 treasure chests if you have Invincibility on with both players. This game is really cool. I enjoy this. This is one of the all-time classics for Data East. I'd seen it in the arcades back in the day, but didn't play it until I got MAME, the emulator. And then I was like, holy cow, what have I been missing? This is a great game. It's really hard to build up that super gun, but once you get it, oh yeah, it's awesome. But it's got limited life to it. It doesn't really last super long, but I have an infinite super gun life to it. And it is, the super gun is the heavy barrel in the title. There will be a point where you get to some treasure chests and then you don't move. Your characters just kind of putz around, or just sit in place, I think. A lot of different cool power-ups, not just the super gun or heavy barrel. This one is a great one. I enjoyed Midnight Resistance by Data East a lot too. That was a fantastic game as well. Had that for Sega Genesis, and I saw the arcade port. In this one, player 2 didn't survive, but here player 1 just kind of doesn't advance further than this part. Or no, I took Invincibility off there. This is both players surviving this is as far as they get. These treasure chests here. And then they just kind of sit there. And enemies just kind of wander around trying to kill us. And they don't succeed. And next up, we're going to look at another Data East classic. And this one is called Karnov. If you have Invincibility on, the game will play for a while on each of a handful of stages, and they will stop at a certain point on each one, and then the game will go to like the high score list or something, or the title screen. Or no, actually no, it'll stop for a second, and then it'll go to the next chosen stage. But I have Invincibility on, so I can't die. But the action will just stop at a certain point, like there. And then it goes to another stage. Eventually he will go to, I think it's like a third or fourth stage. And then on that stage he gets to a certain point where he will just stop. And not advance. And here he moves on to the next stage here. Jump in the water here. This also had a very good NES port. Terrible ending though. I think all it said was like congratulations or something stupid. But very good port. There's all sorts of items and weapons and stuff you can collect in this game. You can collect the letter K a certain amount of times and it'll give you an extra life. I think you have to collect it 50 times. But yeah, I had this for the NES. It was a very, very good port. And this is the last of those stages that you'll see. And when you have Invincibility on and you get to this stage, you will eventually just stop at a certain point and the attract mode will be stuck. The thing always looked like a snow cone to me. I always called it the snow cone or killer snow cone. Yeah, after you pass this first statue and get to the next one, you will freeze. You will not advance, and the attract mode here will be kind of stuck. But that was my fourth installation of my MAME. What did I call it? Crazyclimber80's arcade attract mode Invincibility Follies. That was part 4 of my series. This has been kind of interesting. Well, I'll only have 2 or 3 more left to go in this series. This is Crazyclimber80's, and thanks for watching, and I hope you join me for my next installation. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.